card, the referee. They're gonna stop this. They're gonna stop it.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. More on the ongoing controversy involving controversial Olympian Khelif and the journalist who supposedly leaked an article with a medical document.
What he's saying.
I've never published anything about Khelif. Alleged author of medical report on Algerian boxer tells Polygraph that the information is not reliable. This is a story with several layers. A French journalist discloses new information about Khelif in his own independent newspaper, and the author of a blog with links to the extreme right replicates the content days later. Critics consider that this is the end of the great mystery about the Algerian boxer who won gold in Paris this summer. The problem is, the alleged author of the June 2023 report tells Polygraph that the information is not reliable and that he has never published anything about the athlete. Quote unquote, fake news, as he writes in a response via email. On October 25th, French freelance journalist Jafar Out-Aouida, director of the independent media outlet where he writes, The Correspondent, published an investigative piece about the Algerian athlete who won gold in Paris months earlier. Khelif neither has ovaries nor a uterus, but testicles, is the title of the most recent several texts that Out-Aouida published this year about the boxer, and it is also the only one that remains available for reading. Let's go back until August 30th, when, in X, the French journalist announced the publication of an explosive article after having access to the medical report of the Algerian Khelif. Out-Aouida promised that the investigation would publish in a few hours, but the piece only arrived on September 8th when it was shared on X by the author and director of the newspaper. Khelif, Woman Up to the Balls, was the title of the text that can no longer be accessed. On September 11th, a new attempt with a less controversial title, No, Khelif is not a woman. Also, this piece is not available for reading.
So wait a minute, they're saying that this French journalist, he did publish articles about Khelif.
Unflattering ones that have since been taken down. Between September 11th and October 24, Out-Aouida did not publish anything about Khelif, and his first two attempts had minimal reach on social networks. But something has changed. On the 25th of last month, the journalist revealed that for the third time, the Algerian, after all, has testicles. His name gained dimension when the website Redux, founded by Canadian Anna Slats, who has a curriculum of links to the extreme right, released her investigation days after it was originally published. The author of the text, Slats, has already been arrested while working as a reporter for the Canadian far-right website Rebel News. In addition, as well as the content of her website, she is openly homophobic and transphobic on her social networks, where she was banned in 2020 and where she recently returned with a new profile. Anna Slats is not, however, responsible for the authorship of the original piece, but only for its disclosure. It was through its website that Out-Aouida gained recognition and thousands of shares.
For the article that he initially published in August but was subsequently taken down.
And it is in the article, written by the French journalist, that we find several inconsistencies, especially when we confront one of the doctors mentioned in the play. Let's start with the text. The correspondent investigated the boxer's medical file. This dossier comes from the confidential archives of two renowned hospitals, the Kremlin-Bicêtre Hospital in Paris and the Mohamed Lamine Debunked Hospital in Algiers.
Is that how you pronounce that?
That's how I pronounced it. It is in these places that the champion is accompanied by these specialists in endocrinology, the professors and heads of service, Soumaya Fadala and Jacques Young.
Jacques.
The text attributes the authorship of a report presented in June of last year to the two doctors, Young and Fadela, who clearly point out the pathology of Imain Khelif, an alpha-5 reductase type 2 deficit, a genetic anomaly that causes a metabolic problem in testosterone and dehydroepiandrosterone.
What?
On X, Ait Awida goes even further and says that the revelation was made by Khelif's doctor, Professor Jacques Young, to his students in Paris.
Jacques.
The polygraph investigated the existence of these two professionals in their respective positions in the mentioned places. Nora Sumaya Fadala, and not Sumaya as it appears in the text, is the head of endocrinology and metabolic diseases service at the Bab El Oued University Hospital Center. From what can be seen from the images of the place, Chu BEO is part of the Mohammed Lamine Debagine Hospital, so it would be valid if the signature were common between both. This is if Jacques Young did not completely deny being the author or disseminator, as Ait Awida suggests, of this or any report on Imain Khelif.
So the question is, who's lying? The doctor or the journalist?
The evidence already existed. Jacques Young, according to his own LinkedIn, only assumed the position of head of service of the endocrinology department of the Basitri Hospital in September of last year. According to the correspondent piece, the report allegedly signed by the head of service, Young, is from June or May, the month that is also mentioned in the piece of the same year. To the polygraph, the doctor assures that these sources are quote-unquote not reliable and that he never wrote or published anything about this person, Imain Khelif. The polygraph also tried to contact Sumaya Fadala, the other alleged author of the report, but until the publication of this article, he did not get a response.
Well, of course they're going to deny it now because Imain Khelif is threatening to sue. And because the information could have only come from so many places.
About the report, it is not possible for now to say that the document is false despite containing several inaccuracies in the information, namely about its authorship. The text is consistent and similar to a medical report. However, not even this proves that Imain Khelif is a man. At issue, if we take the medical evaluation as correct, there is a deficit of 5-alpha reductase type 2, which results in a genital ambiguity and can effectively mean the late appearance of male sexual organs. Despite this, the report is clear. Indeed, in these late diagnosed cases, given the clinical history, hormonal biological data, radiological data, and psychological and neuropsychiatric expertise, the female sex is always favored. This is also the case of Imain, who totally identifies herself as a woman.
Finally, we got in touch with Jaffer Ait Awidia, who did not send any kind of answer to the questions about the report that he released on October 25th.
So here's what it is. That French journal doesn't want to get sued for writing this piece about Imain Khelif because even if the information is true,
It's a medical document.
protected under doctor-patient confidentiality, obtaining it, I don't think that's legal.
Just like I don't think releasing it is legal. It's sensitive information, confidential information.
The general public is not supposed to have access to it, much less a journalist. So even if everything in the article were true, it's not supposed to get out. Not like this.
And how Imain Khelif is handling all of this is by threatening to sue, which seems more in keeping to me with someone that has a secret, something to hide.
Because you can just take a chromosomal test and nip this thing in the bud. Kill it.
If the test reveals you have XX chromosomes, a lot of people are going to owe you an apology. If that's what the test reveals.
But if the test reveals you have XY chromosomes, then it's going to be what everybody thought. Imain Khelif is a biological male that was allowed to compete against biological females. And the uniqueness of this athlete's sexual development does not make it all right because the IOC would have allowed them to compete against biological females knowing they were already banned by the IBA.
Ignoring the IBA's claims that they tested this athlete and they have a male karyotype.
Outwardly, it just looks like a lot of people that are working hard to cover their own asses because not even this article, not even this report can prove that the leaked documents are false.
The author of this article says that themselves.
So even in a situation where everything in the report is true. Nobody's going to be in a hurry to accept responsibility for it because that makes them legally liable for leaking confidential information, medical information, whether it's the endocrinologists or someone that works at that facility.
As well as the journalist who published it, then took it down 2 times.
If you're wondering why the journo isn't stepping up, if you're wondering why he's not claiming responsibility, that would be the why.
There's no legal way you came across that intel.
The more controversy this stirs, the more the boxing community at large is of the opinion that Emain Khelif does in fact have something to hide. And that something is that the athlete is biologically male with some kind of sexual development disorder, and it was damn irresponsible of the IOC to allow them to compete and not adhere to the IBA's warnings, because they set a very dangerous precedent moving forward for all the women in this category. Men's lightweight news. The day just so happened to be Gervonta Davis's 30th birthday. A Twitter user that goes by the name Murphy said, "Happy birthday, Gervonta. Please give my friend Ryan Garcia the rematch." Another Twitter user that goes by the name Marty said, "The rematch won't happen." To which Gervonta responded, "Yes, it will."
Oh?
Ryan Garcia himself caught wind of the exchange and said, "Time to settle this the right way." So even before it was announced that there would be a weight cap, a catch weight, and a rehydration clause in association with their initial meeting, before that, I already thought Gervonta would beat Ryan.
Because Ryan sucks.
Stylistically, the fight just doesn't favor him, and in terms of fundamentals, nuts and bolts boxing, as much as I don't like Gervonta Davis, he is a better boxer than Ryan Garcia. Ryan sucks.
That's the only reason Gervonta was even willing to fight him.
Because he sucks, and everybody knows he sucks. But Gervonta Davis, he responded to Ryan Garcia's tweet, "Time to settle this the right way," by saying, "Get me a gift for my G-Day, or you're not getting shit."
Huh?
He's telling Ryan Garcia to buy him a birthday present, a birthday gift.
Is he serious?
I mean, he might be. He does like to wear pink minks. He does like to paint his nails and wear purses.
Might be expecting a little something from Ryan. A little something, something.
Which comes to us on the heels of news that Gervonta Davis was facing foreclosure, and a judge rejected his plea for a Japan birthday trip. Bear in mind, this guy's on probation. The Condo Association moved to foreclose on Davis's $3.4 million Silo Point penthouse, and judge denied his birthday travel request despite the boxer's handwritten note. Will Gervonta Davis had to put down his boxing gloves and put on some moving gloves. The Silo Point Condominium Association moved to foreclose on a penthouse property that the World Boxing Association lightweight champion bought last year for $3.4 million, but after the Baltimore Banner asked about the lawsuit, his attorney claimed the issue was resolved. As of today, all payments have been made. Hunter Pruitt wrote in a text message, "This is a non-issue." The complaint of foreclosure was filed on October 21st in Baltimore Circuit Court and alleges that David owed more than $34,000 worth of fees on his penthouse, 4 parking spaces, and storage area. The Condo Association placed a lien on May 13th against the trust that owns the property on his behalf. Timothy Larson, the Condo Association's attorney, said he was unable to comment beyond the lawsuit. Davis of Parkland, Florida, bought the condo from Scott Plank, a real estate developer and the brother of Under Armour president and CEO Kevin Plank. The condo is located at the top of a renovated grain silo and Locust Point and offers panoramic views of South Baltimore in court records. Davis lists his address as a mansion in South Florida. Meanwhile, Davis recently asked a judge for permission to travel to Tokyo from November 6th to the 14th to celebrate his 30th birthday. That's because he's still on probation for a hit and run that happened back in 2020 in Baltimore. In a motion filed on Wednesday, Pruitt wrote that his client has completed all the special conditions of probation and remains in compliance. Davis greatly appreciated that the judge allowed him to travel to the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. He loved supporting Team USA boxing as well as experiencing French culture, Pruitt said.
Who cares?
They should have never let him go to those games to begin with, because it's not like Gervonta Davis is a former Olympian who competed at the Olympics. They would have been better off sending Clarissa Shields or Keyshawn Davis or maybe Shakur Stevenson, somebody who's actually fought in the Olympic Games. Not a woman-beating troglodyte who slams into pregnant women with a car that he shouldn't be driving to begin with because he doesn't have a license.
Ridiculous.
And in spite of all of that and his previous offenses, of which there are several, they still let him go to Paris to talk to Team USA. I think that was one privilege too many. So it's no wonder that he piped up thinking they'd let him go to Japan. His attorney said his client would like to expand on his international experiences. The purpose of the trip would be to experience and learn about Japanese culture, Pruitt said. While in Japan, Mr. Davis would like to visit the Sensoji Temple, the oldest religious site in Tokyo, visit the Meiji Jingu Shrine, experience Shibuya Crossing, one of the most bustling intersections in all of Japan, visit Hiroshima, and simply learn about and experience the Japanese culture and their amazing food, he added. Baltimore State's Attorney Ivan Bates and Assistant State's Attorney David Owens did not oppose the motion, Pruitt said. In a handwritten letter, Davis wrote that his experience traveling to France showed me a different side of the world that I hadn't seen before, and I'd like to see more. I haven't had any issues with probation in Florida, and things are going very well there, he said. Please consider allowing my request. Please. But on Friday, Baltimore Circuit Judge Althea M. Handy denied the request in a one-sentence order without explanation because none is required. You're on probation, buddy.
They should have never let you go to Paris, much less allow you to now go to Japan.
I think it takes a lot of nerve for a guy in Gervonta Davis's position to now request to go on a leisure trip because that's what it would be.
He wants to present it to Judge Althea like it's an educational experience, like he's going on a field trip.
Pretty please.
He said he wrote her a letter. I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote it in a big yellow crayon.
On construction paper. He wants to go to Japan. He wants to have new experiences.
Maybe you should have thought about that 3 or 4 years ago when you slammed into all those people with a car that you shouldn't have been driving.
It shows a lack of remorse, I would say, a lack of sympathy for those so affected by the vehicular accident that you think you're supposed to carry on like everything's normal.
But I've been good.
That he's in compliance with everything that he's been ordered to do. Yet complying with those orders, that's literally the least you can do if you wish to maintain any semblance of freedom.
It's ridiculous.
And so Gervonta Davis officially turned 30 today, and he's every bit the man-child I say he is.
Do you see what I mean?
No situational awareness is the best way to describe it. I mean, do you think that because you write a handwritten letter that that's supposed to have any sway?
Is it supposed to mean something?
Did it take you a long time to write? Did you write it from the bottom of your heart? Did you mean it? Did you put little stars on all the lowercase i's and little hearts at the end of every sentence?
Duh.
Are you a moron? Are you really that stupid?
Yes.
Maybe he still thinks of himself as being a tough inner city street kid that needs to get out there in the world and experience things, when in reality, he's a 30-year-old man.
You're not a little boy.
Giving Judge Althea the permission slip so that you can go on a field trip. This is not what that is.
Sure to pack your Lunchables.
And so I'm not the least bit surprised that Judge Althea decided to draw the line, put a foot down. No, you don't get to go to the little neighbor boy's house and play PlayStation and Xbox with your buddies.
So you gotta talk to him.
For him to understand, you're grounded.